When we hear about killers, we instinctively ask why. Were they evil? Were they soulless? Just mentally ill? Or perhaps they were possessed? Because what if possession doesn't look like spinning heads in holy water? What if it looks like ordinary men and women, hollowed out and walking around among us? Imagine a Venn diagram, just, like the three circles, and one of them is labeled soulless. The emptiness of empathy, the compassion or remorse, people who kill without feeling. Ted Bundy comes to mind, all charm and no empathy. Richard Ramirez too, who wore his emptiness proudly. He was very proud. Some people say a body like this is nothing more than an empty vessel. The perfect shell for something to just crawl inside. Another circle would be labeled evil. Those who choose harm, who seem to take pleasure in cruelty or destruction. So like Albert Fish or Leonard Lake and Charles Ean, whose torture chambers were built for suffering. Was this purely human sadism or something whispering to them, feeding on every act of torment? And then there's the third circle, illness. The fracture of the mind, trauma, neurological conditions like untreated disorders that can twist perception and behavior, like Dahmer, consumed by obsession and loneliness, and Gein, delusion and warped by his mother's control. Psychiatry calls it psychosis, but when a mind fractures so deeply, could that fracture become a doorway and maybe let something else step inside? So this is what I call the engineers of pain. These are the killers whose cruelty is so detailed, so deliberate, that it feels impossible to explain with psychology alone. They don't just kill, they design suffering. They live in it, they refine it. David Parker Ray, also known as the Toy Box Killer, is my clearest example. He didn't lash out in the heat of the moment. He built a mobile torture device out of an RV. He wrote scripts for his victims. He recorded their torment to rewatch them and re-enjoy it again. Every piece of it was calculated. That's not just broken. That's not just cruel. To build horror step by step, to imagine suffering with such precision feels so inhumane. Maybe that's because it is. Maybe that's where possession hides. Not in the obvious cases, but in the ones where a person seems like less than a man and more like a vessel. Hollowed out, taken over, like a demon wearing human skin. There's something else I've noticed too. Some killers who may have been neurodivergent, like Dahmer. I do think Dahmer was neurodivergent. Possibly Gein, he kind of fits something else to me, but even Kemper, they all fall in the illness side of the framework. Not one of them belongs in the purely evil or purely soulless circles. Neurodivergent didn't make them violent, at all, but being unsupported, isolated, and untreated left them vulnerable to spiraling into this illness-driven horror. And I think that's an important distinction. Neurodivergence isn't evil. It's just, it is an emptiness, but without help, acceptance, and guidance, it can deepen the brokenness that illness has already left behind. So, what happens when illness collides with soullessness, and then overlaps with evil intent? When someone isn't just broken, but hollow, and cruel, and sick all at once. That's when the categories kind of blur. That's when we stop asking why and start asking what. Because maybe the center of the Venn diagram isn't just about damaged people. Maybe it's proof of something darker, moving through them. Maybe the engineers of pain are more than monsters of the mind. Maybe they're possessed. Soulless, evil, illness, 3 categories we use to make sense of the horror, but at their darkest intersection, We may not be studying the human mind at all. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you think. Do you think that's correct? Do you think it has to be possession? Let me know what you think. Thanks for coming out. Bye.